Welcome to another craft project video. Today we will be making a Sanderson Sisters bed and breakfast sign. In your kit you received a vinyl stencil, a 12-inch wood round, a piece of contact paper, a piece of twine, and a makeup sponge. On your kit postcard, it mentions that you will also need paint, paint brushes, a spray sealant, which is an optional addition. If you plan to hang this outside, you're going to want to spray seal your board so it won't warp or be destroyed by weather, tweezers, or a craft knife. So I included two methods on your kit postcard. So one is the quick method that I'll go over for you now. So on your 12-inch wood round, you're going to have one side that's noticeably smoother than the other. One side has been sanded for you to make this project work a little easier with your paints. So on your smoother side, you're going to paint your wood round the color you would like your background to be. You're going to let this dry. You're going to remove the backing from your contact paper, apply it over your vinyl stencil, using this contact paper to pick up all of these vinyl letters in one motion to apply to your board versus letter by letter. So once you've applied this to this, you'll slowly peel this paper backing off, leaving all of your vinyl on your contact paper, and then transfer that design to the board. Once you've pressed it down thoroughly, you're going to slowly remove the contact paper off, leaving just the vinyl lettering on your board. Then after that, you can use your spray sealant, add your twine and ribbon and other decorative items to the top or around, or add glitter, and that's your completed project. Painting your background and just applying these vinyl letters on top. That's the quick method. In this video, I'm going to concentrate on the standard approach method. To start that method, we are going to paint the smoother side of our wood round with the color we would like our design lettering to be. Then we will let that dry, apply this on top. We will then lightly go around these letters with the same color we painted our board. Let that dry. And then over top of that, apply then the color we would like to be our background color. I promise this will make more sense as we get going, but essentially what we're going to be doing is painting over these letters, and then once we have our undercoat, our letters applied, then the color over this, we're going to then peel off these letters using your craft knife or a tweezer. And then you can decorate around that, adding your twine, and then it's ready to hang. So let's get started. Had to grab my paintbrushes really quick. For this project, I'm going to be using chalk paints. I love the matte finish of a chalk paint. So I am going to be painting my board white, applying my stencil once it's dry, dabbing the white around the letters using my makeup sponge, let that dry, and then finishing off over the top with a black paint. And then to be a little extra, I'm going to use a toothbrush to then add colors in a splatter effect over the top. So I have purple, I have a green, and I have an orange that'll be splattered all over my board. Then I will let that dry. And once both of those are dry, I will then peel these letters to reveal the white that was underneath, add my twine and any decorations I want at a later time to finish my project. So to get started, I'm going to paint the first coat of white on my board. So now I will let this dry and then see if I need to do a second coat. First layer is dry. I'm going to go ahead and paint on a second layer to make my white more even. We'll let this layer dry as well. After your base layer is dry, we can then move on to our stencil. So I'm going to peel the backing off my contact paper. And I find crinkling a corner makes it easier to get this started. And then to make it easier to work with the contact paper, I tend to fold it over and apply on one half of my design first. Smoothing across as I go. And just give this a thorough pressing to help connect your letters to your contact paper. Then turn it over. And from the back side, I peel at a tight angle to push all of my vinyl lettering onto my contact paper. If a letter doesn't stick down, just move the paper back, give it a little push, and keep slowly pulling the backing away. Now I'm going to keep in mind where the two holes are at the top of my board and line up my stencil. So the stencil was designed to follow the curve of the bottom of your board. So that's why I'm starting with this Children Stay Free and then pressing down. So again, I'm going to gently press down all these letters to get them to stick to my board. Once I've done that, same way I peeled the paper backing at a nice tight angle, I'm going to slowly peel the contact paper off of my vinyl design. And gently pressing down any letters that are trying to peel up. Then what I'm going to do is just use this contact paper on my surface to save myself a little bit of cleanup. Take a little bit of the white paint that I had used for the background color so far, which will actually be my lettering color when I'm all done, and have that ready to use my makeup sponge. But before I do that, I'm just going to go through and gently press down all of my lettering. This is a removable vinyl, so it doesn't have too much tackiness to the back side of it. I find this is going to work better on this board to prevent it peeling up our base, and that's where sealing it with, well, sanding it really well and then sealing it with the paint helps. So now I'm just going to quickly take my sponge, dab just a little bit of paint at a time, and just do a light coat over the edges of all my letters. This way, if any colors want to bleed through, it's going to be the white that I already used as my base. You don't want this too thick, especially with acrylic paint. You don't want it to seep underneath your stencils. You're just dabbing it on to help seal around each letter to have a crisp design when these are peeled off. So now I've added the very light coat. I'm going to save this makeup sponge because I'm actually going to use the other end on the other side to do my first coat of black paint over the top. So for now, I'm going to let this dry. After a little battery charging, having to move my device and put it back hopefully close to where it was before for the video, I am back. So the white coat is now dry. We're going to use our makeup sponge now with the background color that we're going to be doing. And so that involves putting a little bit of black onto my contact paper. Just going to go ahead and just pour a little bit out. So next I'm going to use the end of the sponge that I didn't use for the white paint. Grab a little black, dab some off, and then gently dab over all of my vinyl. And you should be covering it in a way that you can still see your vinyl lettering. If you do very thick coats, your vinyl will hide and you'll be peeling up paint in order to remove your vinyl decal. The whole board will get painted this black color. I'm just taking my time over the letters. Then I'm going to use my brush to lightly paint the other areas of the board. Working gently over near the lettering, but more in a feathering approach than having the paintbrush fully loaded. So now I'm going to let this dry, and even through the paint, you can still see the outline of the decals. Once it dries completely, I'll decide if there's any areas I need to touch up. I actually see one right now. And decide if I want to do a second coat of black or move ahead to my splattering. To make the black a little more even, I am just going to go through top to bottom and add one more light coat of the black paint. And now I'll let this coat dry. Now that my black coat is completely dry, I'm going to go ahead and use my toothbrush and the 3 different colors of paint to create my splatter effect. And just a heads up, this is going to be a messy step, and I will be washing my paintbrush in between, so I'll just go through kind of fast as I do this. Back again after doing a little cleanup of the space. The paint is pretty much dry except for a few bigger splotches. But I can work around those for this next step. So I highly recommend at this point taking a second and really washing your hands. Since my undercoat layer is white, any paint on my hands could transfer to those white areas. So I'll be right back after I give these a good scrub. Now that my hands are thoroughly rinsed and I got a little water splatter on my board, just give that a little dab to help it dry. I am going to use either a weeding tool or a craft knife to peel these pieces off. Most people probably have a craft knife around, so I'm going to actually use that. And this can be a very satisfying and nerve-wracking step. So there's a few little bleed spots, but overall I'm really happy with how this turned out and my paint splatter effect. So now I'm going to try to clean up some of this black paint off my hand, tie my twine, and then at a later date decide what I want to add to the top. And there's my finished project.